Many thanks for the invitation to speak here, though I have the feeling that I repeat what is already stated and presented here, maybe just with a slightly different focus. I want to talk about the transformation of traditional craftsmen and building technologies into the future. First, a few words about cultural identification of built environment and traditional craftsmanship, and then the challenge for me as an architect, how to transform this into our daily work with some sample projects, and finally a few words about energetic upgrading and building integrated photovoltaic. First of all, I would like to comment on a statement which was made on Monday morning. Culture cannot be inherited unless forwarded and maintained by the successors. I think this is not true for the built heritage. Even though the social fabric of a community is changing rapidly, which is the case in many of the communities I know, or even disappearing, the buildings remain. They remain for years and decades until the character of the village slowly fades away by neglect, by loss, by inappropriate overforming. But this delay even is our chance. And I know from that it is possible that foreigners, even not speaking by words the language of the country, but understanding the language of the architecture, can step in and maintain it. This is our experience and our big chance to maintain this cultural heritage. This is our starting point. For me, cultural heritage in terms of built heritage consists in the coherence of the village ensembles in balance with their nature and their cultivated land around and the wilderness nature of the forest. It is in fact not a question of one building or even not a question of a village. It is the rhythm of the villages with the landscape in between. And once more, thanks for Laszlo for the morning presentation. This is all in a human scale. Even the distance between the villages follow a human scale by just a day's walk. This is the average distance between the villages. So all this together is the cultural heritage I would like to refer to. And this does not only apply for the Saxon villages, as you saw before, but also all over Europe, for instance, the Tuffo towns of Tuscany or the white villages of Andalusia, and many, many more, and even all over the world, like here, for instance, the Dongo settlements of Mali. So we find this all over the world, this unity of the villages. But what is cultural identification of built environment in general, or what are the principles? For me, it is, first of all, the very clear and simple settlement structure. It is a regional cycle economy of products. It is the conformity of materials and surfaces, a clear and very common sense of building, how to build, and finally the local available manual skills and craftsmanship. And the last is my main point. For me, these villages, for instance, here in Transylvania, the houses are like fingerprints. They all follow exactly the same structure, but you will not ever find two similar houses in the village, or even not in Transylvania. And this makes the big difference to the serial building activities nowadays. I'm strongly convinced building in a way appropriate to historic structures, regardless whether it is a registered monument or not, does not just mean to maintain, to restore, or to copy an outward appearance, but it is to construct in the traditional way. It is the inner quality of the structure which gives the spirit and the atmosphere to a house, and which provides the physical conditions to feel comfortable or not. So in this respect, the building process reflects a very lively process in which all actors play their part. All the local craftsmen, the local small-scale companies put their stamp on the design. And so this is, for me, also very nice to work with this always unforeseen, slightly differences. And they bring in just their knowledge, their skills, their capacity and means wherever it is. It differs from village to village. Traditional building technologies or techniques are, first of all, sustainable in terms of local economy, cycle economy. They create jobs and income for the villagers. They have the very best potential for preserving local identity, even for new buildings. They are part, or should be acknowledged as part of the immaterial cultural heritage. And they are meaningful and healthy activities and contribute to the appeal of neighborhoods that counts for villages as even more in urban quarters where we have a lot of skills and a lot of craftsmanship. All the pictures you saw are all from our projects, so these are not just pictures, it's all during building of our projects. It is nowadays not easy. It is quite a complicated thing to plan, because we have to follow so many determinants which are all influencing the house, the design of the house. And even here is little remaining. It is the sleeves. It's remaining from the conference in Sweden, from the Mariestad conference. It's their emblem. So all these we talked about Genius Loci, for instance, and others. So I will just refer to eco-technology. What is eco-technology? For a project to build in nature reserves, I once developed criteria for building nature and climate friendly. And for me, as an architect, I consequently follow all of them. Please read them all. I just now will refer only to the bold points here, because time is short. Certainly the use of renewable, nature-friendly, renewable materials and technologies, certainly. For me, priority of workforce-intensive technologies over energy-consumptive technologies, which are capital-intensive technologies, it's a very crucial point. It's a political discussion. In the past decades, labor was made artificially more and more expensive by loading all the taxes and social contribution costs just on the labor. So labor in Germany, for instance, is almost impossible to pay, but this should be reversed. We should fight for that the workforce, human labor, is one of the best and almost unlimited renewable resources. Why don't we use them in a better way? And this refers to these traditional technologies, because they are all, as you saw before, all based on a lot of workforce. And finally, the point here, reduction of energy consumption. So the reduction of carbon emission is very crucial, and this will be, by European regulations, it will be respected for all countries. So it refers to every activity. Every activity has an equivalent of carbon emission. It starts from the first extraction of raw material from the ground, over the production of materials, transport, the building activities, the use of the building by heating and electricity consumption, until the last point, the disposal. What happens with the building in 50, 60 years? Will it be possible to recycle? can it still be used? Or is it to disposal as problematic waste in the end? So all these things we have to request, and we have to see how we deal with them. And all the building certificate systems, which I know from Germany and from other countries, are based on this equivalent of carbon emission. And building certification will be a big issue for all of us architects when we are building in the future. This will be required. And this is, it finally comes in, it's the term for this is life cycle assessment, which refers to these carbon emission. And certainly, I've mentioned no waste, and these are the criteria. One little example here, that was a small ranger station and tourist information point built in this very tiny nature reserve close to the town of Sighișoara in Transylvania. And you see this is not a traditional building. It has a flat green roof. But it was because for that we don't need a roof, so why should we make a roof? So this is built already some 15 years ago, and this was made very consequently in these ideas, just with the material from the nearby forest, brought there by horse charts, and then treated in the traditional way, all the same. And even the foundation has been made just with local stone and earth, nothing else, so very consequently these ideas. But this is not enough. For me, as an architect, it is the big challenge to create new modern designs by means of traditional materials and handcraft technologies, which is just the opposite approach of what we find usually and so often, which is the copy of historic patterns by new industrial means. So my point is just the other way. And to transform these traditional handcrafts into new structures, new patterns, individual buildings, or even furniture. And also to combine these traditional building technologies with state-of-the-art technical components like thermal insulation glasses, green roofs, modern bathrooms, geologic heat pumps, building integrated photovoltaic. These are all the topics we have to deal with now. We all want internet, so then we have to deal with the modern technologies as well. But my challenge is to combine it and to deal with these modern industrial innovations in a very creative way. One more example is this is even made some 25 years ago on Chumbe Island Coral Park. Please Google this. This is very interesting. It's a very successful project. This is the first and only private managed marine nature reserve in the world. And we made there in education, an environmental education center and a small hotel to finance it. And we transferred the very common and traditional way of making the typical Zanzibar Makuti roof, which is just a plain, flat, steep roof. We transferred this into a double-bend membrane shell construction. And certainly that was an island situation, so we had to care for electricity and water, rainwater collection, solar energy. And this was all made in the completely traditional way, just these casuarinia trees from a plantage, bent with coconut ropes, and they have been made wet before, and then when it dries, it becomes very, very strong connections. In this way, that was let's say a huge basket of 35 centimeter diameter, and just made in the traditional way, but with this innovation to have a new structural idea behind, and was covered then with palm leaf shingles. Another example here, this is some 6 years ago, a hide in the forest area, in the nature reserve in in Romania, in the Carpathian Mountains there. Before the big shots of the forest came to hunt bear, now the tourists come to take pictures, and it's all preserved. And we transferred, we modified the traditional way of round log wall construction in a way that these big panorama glass windows, completely noise tight, can fit. So this is a modification as well of a traditional way, and this is also very well accepted. It's fully booked and very popular and very, very well liked. The tourists like it to stay there and to watch the bear outside. Just a few words about windows, because this is the big issue always in old peasant houses. They have all small windows, and it's always difficult for modern use to get more light inside. And it's just for me the challenge always to be creative with the surfaces we have, which are available without affecting the character of the house. That we can modify these surfaces which are available to get more light inside. It's just a brief thing about it. This is a project, I rushed through this a bit because time is short. This was a ruin of a peasant house, and there should be a seminar house for the Kobor biodiversity farm in Romania. And so we decided we leave this ruin inside as an element, an architectural element which is just remaining from the past. And we created a new wooden structure in the traditional way. As you see, all the joints are very much the way how it is usually done. And you see in the roof, it's straw insulation, and certainly with all the calculations and technical details which are needed for this. So then it is this seminar house, and it's also very, very used, and very simple interior. And even also the furniture and interior items are followed with traditional means. For instance, all the hinges are made by the blacksmith in the village, something like this. Another project, this is a barn. We had already a barn in Transylvania. There was a barn before, but it was gone some years ago, and so we had to reconstruct something, a new barn, which was made. Then we bought an old barn and repaired it with new elements, as you can see here, but just in the same way in the traditional kind of barn construction. The right-hand picture shows it. As it was usually made. And here you can see even this is also erected then with a lot of manpower, without additional means, and this is how it was done also in the past. Even the tools here you can see, these are very old carpenter's tools, which are almost unknown nowadays, but still we use them. These sticks to erect them. With all the other details, everything is done by hand in the traditional way. And finally, the carpenters and also the village helpers are very proud then about their work and sit on top of the beam. As you find some old pictures like this as well. This is in the tradition as well to make a picture in the end of this. Finally, it is a restaurant and of a village guest house. And you see here, I tried to design it in a way that the load-bearing structure of this barn is doing its job. So it's still the load-bearing structure and not degraded to an interior decoration or so, and it is visible from inside and outside. So the windows are arranged in a way that the load bearing the original barn structure remains as it is. And again here also this vertical planking is very traditional. So it is a combination of these of this traditional appearance even of a barn, but with a modern look. And here this is inside then. It's a restaurant, as I said. Certainly a restaurant needs a very professional kitchen which meets all the legal requirements. This is the guest house in total, the rest of the guest house. You see the upper picture before and the low after. It is, you see in the back, you see the fortified church of Almaviv. And a principle of our work is always to say from the church, if your visitors are on the church there, they should look around and see just the traditional old roof landscape. So we had on the back side, on the other side, on the side of the street, there's no window, and we used the old tiles. And on this side, on the courtyard side, we have all the windows for the new guest rooms, and we have here some handmade new tiles. That comes now to the thermal insulation, interior thermal insulation. For such a building, we need some additional insulation, certainly. And in this, now I would like to refer here to a small brochure. This is a market overview over Dämmstoffe aus nachwachsenden Rohstoffen, means insulation materials from renewable resources, which is issued by the Agency of Renewable Resources from the Ministry of Agriculture in Germany. And it has all these certificated materials with their properties and with their technical details. I just give it around. You have a look at it. So I use only these natural materials because they have all one very, very big physical advantage. They have a humidity and heat capacity, storage capacity, completely different from these mineral and other materials which have none. And so we have a completely different physical treatment of the whole wall. We don't need interior blocking folia or so. We just simply is not needed. And as you see here also on the right-hand picture, you see here, maybe I have this one. No, okay. You see that is a framework house with a very thin framework outside wall, and we have inside straw clay blocks, and with a backfilling of straw clay. Is this a pointer? No. You see here on the bottom here is a backfilling of expanded clay bubbles, a mixture, and up there you see a backfilling just with straw and clay. And so this is that brings already much better thermal insulation properties than without, and it is only these capillar active materials which then don't need any other construction, and they follow the traditional type of material. So they have the same properties. They have the same, something that's similar as the old materials which are already there. Heating is also a big problem. This is too much this is another presentation. We have several systems. We have single stoves. We have a conventional central heating system. But nowadays, usually it's a hybrid system of a combination of some of them. And these hybrid systems very often, let's say in general, run most efficient with low temperature. And so we have heatings running with low temperature as floor heating or wall heating. And on the right picture, you can see such a wall heating in the drying process. So you see the pipes, the heating pipes in the clay plaster. And we did it even in roof slopes. It's possible, very much possible, to use also the roof slopes for the heating, which is very convenient, what I learned from an expert about heating systems. So this is then in the end with clay plaster. My last point is building integrated photovoltaic. A few statements which I learned from other experts. The future is electric. No carbon emission from heating in the house, which means no flame in the house in the future. You know that the building sector is one of the sectors which always miss the target for carbon emission reduction on all nations. I think in Germany at least it is. I think in Finland and Scandinavian countries they are better off. But I think here in Hungary or even Romania this is not even known. But this is the point, the reduction of carbon emission in the building sector. But even the intersectoral combination is very interesting because we have once the building sector was electro-based heating, but we have also electromobility. The cars in the future will only be electric. In Germany it's terminated. From 2030 onwards, no car will be produced with fossil fuel anymore. And as planners, we always have to anticipate the future. We have to see what happens in 30, 40, 50 years. How will be our world then? If we like it or not, this is not a question. It is how to anticipate it. And so we will not come around the idea of creating electric energy, even decentral with photovoltaics on the house. I have here one more statement, which is photovoltaics only have a future if they can be harmoniously integrated into the architecture. This is from one of the pioneers of photovoltaic, Charles Fritz, already 1880. And I find he is right. So it is not the way just to put some modules on an existing roof, which we find so often. This is not the idea. The idea is to find, and the future will develop more and more ways and modules and technologies that we can deal with these in a very creative and in a very appropriate way. Some samples from Switzerland, they are very much in front of this here. They have quite nice buildings, modern buildings, which are fitting into the traditional landscape, even with photovoltaic roofs. And from Switzerland, we can learn in this respect. In Germany, this is a big thing even for monuments. So far, monuments always have no possible, not on monuments. We cannot make photovoltaics on monuments. But they see we have to deal with this, and they accept that if the church community says we need to create our own energy here, we cannot pay the high costs of electricity. We have a roof, we want it. And so the idea of integrated, then it's also now very common for monuments. It will come, and we have to deal with this as architects. One sample here is again in the Carpathian Mountains. It's an old forest house which was not used anymore, and it's also it's not a valuable architecture, and the roof was also with all these little bits of little complicated roofs. It was leaking and it was completely rotten, the full roof construction. So we turned it into another building. It should become a education center for school classes there in the Carpathian Mountains. And then it is turned into this. It looks completely different, but it's based on the old building. And we have this big photovoltaic roof there as well. It's an island situation again, so there's no electricity. And so far it is a passive house. It creates its own energy, and the form of the roof is made because the winter season. So in summer there's always enough energy and sun, and also we don't need heating. But in winter, and so the sun is low in winter, so it's a better slope for the sun, and even more important, snow will not stay on it. So it can also create electricity in winter. Yeah, here we have also calculations, and it's again we have wall heating with clay plaster. The outside is made with wood fiber insulation. Okay, now this is my recent project, my actual project now. It's in process now. It is an office building on a hill slope in an apple orchard. And we make it as a wooden frame structure with straw bale walls and a big solar roof. And with this picture from my own site in North Germany, I want to thank you for your patience. It's just straw and clay and straw. This is what I'm building with. Okay, thanks.
Thank you.